When Carlos Reyes arrived in France, he didn't speak the language as his own. Didn't have a network, didn't have a workshop. What he had was a habit, making things. Today, he runs 3 YouTube channels in 3 languages, builds some of the most ambitious maker projects you'll find anywhere, and behind the Poké Balls and the Iron Man suits, there's a story about what it takes to build yourself a place in a country that wasn't yours. So that's the conversation I wanted to have. Not the builds, the person who needed to build them. This is Between Layers with Carlos 3D.
Even today, I don't have the budget to make an Iron Man suit, but that never stops me. Every project that I made is trying to prove something to myself. It has to work. If something doesn't connect with me or is not interesting enough, I just go down to the sadness road, right? No, but I will learn. If I don't fix it, well, it's broken. It didn't work, but why? And I think this is the most important thing.
So when you first arrived from Mexico into France, what were you making at the time?
Good question. So that's my start of content creation journey. So back in the days, I was an electro-mechanical engineer. So I moved from Mexico to France because I was working for a French company in Mexico. And then they invited me to move to France. And I just stayed as an engineer and just met my wife and just stayed here. So it's been like 10 years, almost 10 years that I moved from Mexico to France. So that's why my French is a lot better than my English, I think.
And back in 2013, you made your very first Iron Man armor out of cardboard.
Yeah.
What were you trying to prove? Were you trying to prove something to yourself, to a friend?
I think for myself. And I think every project that I made is trying to prove something to myself. The most tricky part about this is how to make content out of something that I love, right? Because for Iron Man it's pretty easy, but for example, now I'm making some electronic stuff with things that I never used before, like ESP, or trying to connect Wi-Fi with some thing. And I'm like, oh yes, I'm learning a lot of stuff, but how to convert this to content? So that's the tricky part. But anyway, coming back for the question that you made, I think I just flashed with the Iron Man movie. It was great. I mean, just seeing one guy doing something on his garage, and it was like, okay, yes, that's why I'm studying to be an engineer, because I want to create wonderful and crazy things. And at the moment, back in the day, and even today, I don't have the budget to make an Iron Man suit. But that never stops me, and that's what I want to communicate with all the people who watch my videos, that, okay, just work with whatever you have in hand. Back in the day, I had like cardboard because I was living in Mexico. I was a student, engineer student. So yeah, 3D printing for me back then was not even in my radar, because 3D printing in 2013 was pretty expensive. And it was like just the beginning of commercialization with the whole public. It's still today the thing that I'm trying to do the most.
Yeah. And so you first started out with this Iron Man suit in cardboard. When you did that first project, did you already think that you might do a better version down the road, or did it just feel like one project like this?
I never thought that I was going to finish the project, to be honest. It was like a mountain for me. Like, okay, I just started doing the helmet. I just remember doing the helmet and saying to myself, like, it's very ugly. It was a pain to build. It was very, very ugly because back in the day I didn't know how to use Bondo, how to use filler putty. So I just put a lot of putty into the helmet, and it was like, I think I have the photo. If I found it, I will send it to you, because it was like a rock. It was pretty ugly, and for me it was like, okay, I just spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and this thing doesn't work or doesn't feel like in the movie. But I didn't give up, and I just made the version 2, and it was more or less okay. And I think this is the thing that it happens for most of the makers. Like, you finish something, and all the process of building and to creating, it's so enjoyable that you say, I want to relive this. And when you are doing something, you are like, okay, I learned a lot of stuff. For sure, next time I will not make these mistakes. And that's why we continue creating, and that's why I just say to myself, okay, helmet is done. What about creating the arm? And then why stopping on the arm? And yes, I just started to create a lot of things. I just created the armor, and when I finished the armor, I say to myself, what if I had a 3D printer? Like, because back in the day, I was also scrolling into Instructables. I think it's one of the websites that I love the most, that people doesn't know that much today, Instructables, but back in the day, it was pretty famous, right?
It was huge.
It was huge. So I learned a lot, and I was seeing one guy that made a tutorial of how to do an Iron Man helmet with 3D printing. It was great. For me, it was like the movies. And that was the reason why I started Googling what is 3D printing. So yeah, every project, even Iron Man or all the things that I do is like, okay, version 1 is great, but what about version 2, 3, or 4? And even if you finish one, it's not like the final version of it.
Exactly.
You can always improve,
And I think definitely any creative creation process has a lot of this snowball effect where you always think of what can I do next, and you just love the process. Is this project, so the first Iron Man suits, is the first time where you really felt that creation process of I actually like doing it more than the final result, or had you already felt that before?
I think it comes from my family because, like I said, I'm from Mexico and I'm coming from a very poor family. So in Mexico, it's like the middle range of family, but we are pretty poor in Mexico. So you need to find solutions to repair stuff. So I just remember growing up in a house where my mom didn't have any studies of engineering or whatever, and she was repairing the stuff in the kitchens because we didn't have any money to buy a new one. So I just remember seeing my mom just taking apart all the stuff, the blender, the microwave or things like that, and was like, Mom, what are you doing? You don't know anything. And she was like, no, but I will learn. And if I don't fix it, well, it's broken, so whatever. And I was like, that's a good point. So when I was a teenager, I was just trying to recover old TVs or old PC boards or things like that, just to discover what is inside. To be honest, I didn't understand like what it's really happening, but just the pleasure of trying to, maybe I can figure out how this thing works. It was great for me. So I was not building stuff, but I was just discovering and just trying to make experiments. Exactly. So yeah, I think that's come from that experience.
And well, before we started this interview, you were talking about how much you learned through YouTube on different things you never had done before. And your mum was already doing this kind of stuff before YouTube. How did you live this changing point of having all this knowledge available through YouTube and not only learning by yourself, but being able to learn from others?
Well, YouTube have evolved. It's evolving, will evolve, right? It's a very changing platform. So when I was young, I just remember, and I think a lot of people that we talk and on the socials and are born between 70s, 80s, 90s, have watched Adam Savage and Mythbusters. So because I was living in Mexico, and in fact, in the border between Texas and Mexico, I was very influenced by US and all the cartoons, the Simpsons, all the media coming from the US, all the toys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Pokemon, and also Adam Savage and Mythbusters. So for me, watching them, it was like, I don't know what they are studying or what they are doing, but that's so cool, that's so fun. Then I discovered YouTube, but YouTube was like more like, let me post a video of my family or let me post something with the guitar, things like that. But little by little, step by step, the YouTube just evolved, and I was just following guys who made awesome stuff. And the first awesome guy that I have the pleasure to meet in person and to hang out a little bit. It's James Bruton. So I just remember seeing James Bruton building an Iron Man suit on his basement or room, and I was like, oh, this is huge. Someone who is building, is inspiring, is sharing, and then more and more people start to doing that. And I think YouTube right now, as you said, it's a source of good material with inspiration, entertainment. We have tutorials, and now I think we are going to step in another era of YouTube because we have AI. So the language barrier will not longer exist, right? So that's the thing, that maybe a lot of people that we know on English speaking content creation, but you don't know people who are doing crazy stuff in Mexico, in Argentina, or things like that. So I think we have very good potential to improve and to have better builds and a new generation of makers.
Yeah, it unlocks a lot. It's true, it's a bit weird and a bit fun. I've seen some friends play my videos in Spanish, Arabic, and it's very weird seeing yourself speak a language you don't speak normally, but it's true that it also unlocks a lot of potential because there's loads we don't know from other cultures, from other ways of doing, and now we have even more of this power available to us.
Exactly.
So obviously you started as an electromechanical engineer, and now you're a creator, a maker. In what ways do you think this is kind of the same job? How do those both overlap?
Well, like I said, I started studying engineering, to be honest, because my father is a mechanical engineer. So he was working for a Mexican company. He did his life like whole generation did, right? Like you get a job and you do all your life in this company. So for me, like being an engineer, at first it was like, okay, I need to follow my father's steps. But then you're a teenager and you start to realize like, yeah, I'm feeling attracted to this engineering stuff. So I learned a lot of things in engineering school and mechanical school. And in Mexico, you need to create things. And I just remember being in Mexico and again, having machines that didn't work, and our teachers said to us like, you are going to become an engineer, so it's your job to repair it. And I was like, come on, it's the job of the school to have good machines to me to practice.
Exactly.
But this was amazing because, yeah, we did that. Like sometimes our studying process was to repair something that didn't work at the school. So doing that was like, this is cool because now people come and use the machine and say like, yes, the group of Carlos or this group of guys repair it, and you can have like your board with your names. This date, people. This date I repaired or something like that, right? So feeling that feeling of, okay, this didn't work, and thanks to my knowledge now it works, it's awesome. The thing is, and I'm going a little bit further, is like when I just graduate and have my first job, I was not doing that. I was doing more like paperwork. I was working with an automotive company. So yeah, you do some engineering, like some fixtures, some jigs, some validation process, some measurements, whatever. But at the end of the day, you do a lot of documentation, and also KPIs, right? And if you are good at it, you are doing less floor working and mechanical, and you are doing more paperwork. So that was my story. I just moved from Mexico to France, and at that time, after some years of being an engineering of electromechanical stuff, I was doing just paperwork, and I was like, okay. When I started studying engineering, this field, like I want to do this the whole day, and then just disappear because I was doing a lot of paperwork.
And well, the obvious question is, at one point you were doing this job and at the same time doing this hobby of building stuff. What was the moment where you decided to go full in and go into the hobby and for it to become your job actually?
Well, it's a it's still a complicated process, to be honest, and that I'm pretty transparent with the all who speak with me, and the people who are watching it needs to realize that there is no moment like this is the day, right? This is the exactly moment. It feels more like a process because I started 2014, something like that. It was very expensive. I was doing in a classroom, whatever. So it was not my 3D printer. When I moved to France in 2017, I just bought my first 3D printer, a kit, and I just started creating Iron Man stuff, right? And then I just started creating some useful, non-useful machine that my wife told me that like it does nothing, and I was like, yeah, but it's a challenge, right? Yeah. So I was doing that, and then COVID happened, and then I had a lot of time, free time to do my stuff, and I was doing more and more, and then I started YouTube, and I started to doing things in French and doing things in Spanish. I didn't know how the algorithm works. So I was experimenting. Yeah. So YouTube for me is also experimentation, and that's great. But the thing is that in parallel, you have a life, right? You have bills, you have a relationship, you have a lot of things. But it's kind of tricky. So my best advice is if you have an opportunity, just go for it if you can. I'm not saying that just leave everything and struggle with bills, but if you feel like you have a couple of months ahead of you and you feel that that's the way of doing things, just do it. And if it's a mistake, you can go back and have another job. So that's kind of the past years have happened to me. Like just making mistakes, trying things, didn't work. So I go to find a job. Then I try to save a little money and then go back to content creation. It's not easy, but it's satisfying. So life is short.
And sometimes you do have, and it's important to know what risk you're taking, but sometimes you can take a bit of risk because maybe you can find another job and you can actually take that opportunity, and you will always find some way to make your path. And if this doesn't work, well, probably you'll find another job down the road. It is a risk, but sometimes it is worth taking. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, also it's like I'm not being younger, right? So I'm aging. So my mom always said like, just make mistakes. You are young, so just do it, and you will go back and try to do better. So yeah, I think it's like if you feel it, go for it. And also my best advice is like if you want to go pro, like you want to have this like a professional guy or girl, well, take it as a pro, right? Like you need to wake up early, you need to have a plan, you need to know some objectives, etc., right? So because if you are just doing this like, okay, let's see what happens, maybe it will not work, right?
Yeah, between a hobby and a pro, you become a company. So in some ways, you have to operate like a company.
Exactly.
And you were talking about how you got into 3D printing, and first you were already building without 3D printing. Did you actually start 3D printing for the Iron Man suit, or was it for other projects you had in mind? How did it come? Was it because you needed it or because you found it cool?
Mostly for Iron Man. Because yeah, I just found that this technology can make awesome stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, we can create cool things. So it was always in my mind like, okay, I need to create and build an Iron Man suit. Second project that I made, and almost is like justifying the buying of this machine, because just making an Iron Man was not enough to justify the buying of this machine. It was like I was finishing my master degree, and the master degree that I was taking was automation and productivity, and I just proposed to make like a small color sorting Arduino machine about the twist or the things. It's like I will 3D print it, I will create it my own, I will do my coding. It was more like a homework kind of thing, because people will say like, okay, that's easy, right, for a master degree.
So obviously during the pandemic you built a new Iron Man suit, which was very different from the cardboard one. But aside from the materials used to build it, what was different in the way you built it? How did your relationship to building stuff evolve, going from the one in cardboard and the ones 3D printed?
At first, I didn't want to do that Iron Man suit. It changed my life, of course, but at first I didn't want it because I knew the struggle and the pain, the time to make an Iron Man suit. And I knew that doing that on 3D printing will be quote unquote easier. But I was like, nah, I just know that no, I don't have the courage to do that. But then YouTube came out, right? Like just scrolling YouTube, trying to connect and see something good. And I just found out Frankly Built, another content creator that inspired me to say, oh, okay, this guy is doing this. So, and just to, sometimes I think, less today I think, but back in the day it was like, you feel like alone, right? Like you don't know people in your city, like maybe I'm just a weirdo or things like that. But back in the day it was like that, like just trying to connect and to see who shares the same interests as you. But YouTube made that happen and just made, I just saw Frankly and I was like, okay, I want to do that. And now I have the time. And one day my sister in Mexico was talking with her and was like, why not? Just, you have the time. I mean, we're in COVID. Either you go to Animal Crossing again or you begin starting your Iron Man suit. And yeah, at that time I had like 3D printers. And I was like, yeah, I have the muscle. So why not just starting creating that? And yes, I learned a lot. I learned a lot on this process, and I still believe that when I finished the armor, was like, okay, next time I will do it better because this and that, right?
Always. And when you told family and friends about making this big project of the Iron Man suit, how did they react? Were they encouraging you to build it, or were they telling you, maybe slow down, it's a big project?
First everything began with the cardboard armor, right? So my mom knew that I was this guy, right? Like trying to create, and that happens to me. Like if something doesn't connect with me or is not interesting enough, I just whatever, and I just go down to the sadness road, right? Like I need to be active, I need to be creating, I need to be stimulated, right? So my mom always supported me, and that's the most important thing I think to communicate. Like if people support you, like, yeah, go ahead, or just try it and just try to be yourself. Doesn't matter if it's ugly, if it doesn't work, if whatever, you will improve down the line. So my family always knew that I wanted to create, and I was like a kind of this child that need to stimulate the creation stuff. So yeah, I just built that Iron Man. For my mom, it was like, okay, he wants to create it, why not? And I just remember her buying me like fiberglass and resin and asking friends like, hey, my son is building this, you know? She was like very proud of me building a cardboard Iron Man suit. So for me, it didn't cross my mind to think that other people will think that it's crazy or that is awkward or things like that, right? So for me, it's like, it's cool. It is, everyone will love it, but there is people who don't love it.
But it really is very important having people supportive around you. And it seems like your mum was through inspiring you because of the fact that she was repairing stuff or encouraging you down the road because she knows you really liked it. It is a big part of enabling you to make stuff and have the ease of mind.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the bottom of it. I mean, now I'm 35 years old. My family knows that, quote unquote, crazy for them because they have like regular jobs and they are not into 3D printer. Well, my brother works a lot with wood, so he makes furniture, and maybe sometimes he send me message like, hey, you should do this. And I was like, no, I don't know how to. You are the wood guy. I'm not the wood guy, right? So my family, it's happy. My wife is like, she started to know me. This is new me, because when she met me, I was a regular engineer working on an office, and now I'm building giant Poké Balls, things like that. So we have an internal joke, like something like, this is going to be the project. I always say, like, you will see this project, it will be the one. We are going to be viral. We are going to have this and that. It's always going to be the project.
And I feel it's the same with what you were saying about the Iron Man suit. When you're in the process, you're doing the thing, and when you're done, you always think of the next better thing. I think it's the same with content creation, where you think, okay, this is the video, this is the project.
Yeah.
But when you're done with the project, it is a creative process. So you're saying the thing, well, the next project, that will be the project.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's great, but at the same time, we need to be careful because it's very demanding. Sometimes it's stressful. Sometimes you are tired at the end of the day, right? Just trying to figure out. But what a pleasure to be tired for something we love, right? So.
And sometimes it is true, you have to stop and celebrate what you've done and not just chase the next best thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, do you feel like posting on social media and having a community allows you to better realize what you do and how good of a job you do with people who celebrate your work and people who reward your work by watching the content? Is it a way for you also to celebrate your achievements?
Interesting. The way I see it is like, I'm trying to communicate and to click with someone and to just express my craft, my art. Because we are artists, right? We are engineers, we are makers, but this is kind of expression, it's an art expression. And I'm just trying to do my best, and if it connects to someone and inspire them, or it's just a funny joke of Simpsons, or something incredible for a child. Like when I was a child, I just saw some time ago a guy in France that created a giant Poké Ball, so that inspired me to be an engineer. I think for me that's the best reward, because to be honest, at the end of the day, there are like thousands of people creating cool stuff on internet, and that's, for me, it's inspiration, but also it's like, I need to do better, right? Today I'm more like chill on that. I'm just trying to do my best, and if it connects with me, and if it connects with other people, I'm fine with it. It's okay to want to be the best, but there is a lot of pressure on it.
And today you have 3 channels in 3 languages, in French, in English, and in Spanish. What does this mean to you, having those 3 channels?
People told me, like, cool, you speak 3 languages, right? Spanish is my native language. French is becoming my second language because I'm living here in France. English, I'm doing a little bit okay, thanks. But they say, like, wow, you speak 3 languages, like it's great. You can just communicate with a lot of people. Well, today it's not like social media working like that. Maybe it's happening, but you cannot start a channel and just switch from French to English to Spanish. So that the thing that I learned the bad way, the wrong way, we will say, because I started my YouTube channel in Spanish, then I switched in French, and then trying to switch on English, and it had a lot of troubles connecting. And then people told me, like, hey, I will come, wait for it. It started to happening, look, Mr. Beast. But the thing is that I'm not Mr. Beast, right? So I cannot just upload my audio or let AI happening. So that's why I took the decision to say, okay, let's communicate in 3 different languages with 3 different channels. And also, I think more or less I'm 3 different person, kind of, because my vocabulary is different, of course, because if I'm communicating in Spanish, I will have like my slang, my street way to speak, exactly. And Yeah, so every language that I use, it's different. So why not just creating 3 different channels, and let's see what happens in the future.
And do you feel like those 3 communities, because obviously you have different, not just language, but what you were saying, different style, different tone, different vocabulary. Do you feel like those 3 communities are different in the way they interact with your content?
Yes and no. For example, right now I'm doing like the Simpsons series. So I just grew up with the Simpsons, and in Mexico and all Latin America, we love the Simpsons. And the dub version of the Simpsons was made in Mexico, so a lot of reference are coming from Mexico. And for example, in this content, I'm doing it on English because, of course, it's coming from US. And I know that a lot of people will relate to it. But I have a lot of comments of Mexican or people in Argentina and things like that, because it's related to them, right? So there are content that can cross, for example, The Simpsons or Pokemon or things like that. But there are some content that is like exclusive for a country. For example, here in France, people love Goldorak. We will have some image maybe popping up. But when you speak with other countries, they don't know about this character. So yeah, there is a lot of middle ground for everyone, but at the end of the day, every country have their differences. So yeah.
And when you're doing a piece of content for the 3 channels at the same time, how do you build this content? Do you build it in one language and then translate it? Do you actually build it in the 3 languages at once? How does that creative process look like?
So my strategy was more like there's a structure. The structure is the same, but you have face cams. So I call it face cam insert, but because for me it's like, okay, I have 10 inserts. Here I'm explaining this, here I will explain that, and so on and so forth. So this face cam, I have like, I have like, we'll say like bullet points, but I don't have a script. So I try to do as natural as possible with my own words in their own language. So sometimes, that's why the video, sometimes you have like, okay, it's 10 minutes long, but in Spanish it's like 12, or in French it's like 8 or something like that. One is because of the difference of language, and the other is because I try to put something of me on that, right? Like trying to relate with the audience, and trying to be more like, this is original, it's not a script that I'm just translating in every language. So that's kind of the vibe.
Whenever you're working, or even just in your life in general, when you're taking notes and drafting stuff, what language you write in?
That's a funny question. Yeah, the 3 of them.
I do the same. So
I just, it's everything just mixed. But yeah, it's kind of funny how things work. Also because there are things that you can say in one language that doesn't exist in another language. Instead of just searching on Spanish, I just write it on French, or then you continue in English. So that's cool.
And since you started those 3 channels, what have you learned?
That is a lot of work. That is a lot of work. It's not easy at all. Yeah. Consistency is one of my main villains on this content creation journey. I consider myself more like a short form content creator.
Okay.
I try to build fast. I consider myself good at editing fast, so I'm editing all my stuff. But long form for me is like, you need to put the effort, and sometimes it's like 1 month of trying to just have the idea and film it and building it and things like that. And that's one of the things that maybe as a maker I struggle the most. I don't know if people can relate. Maybe that see me will say like, come on, it's easy. But for me, like, I have more pleasure just to build something, and sometimes I forget just to record. So either I don't have enough recording, either I have plenty of them because I'm afraid that something is not going to be on the video. I'm just trying to experiment on whatever feels the most for me.
And some things you do are hard to show on camera sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes you over-explain things.
True.
Sometimes you skip things that can be interesting. Sometimes you are more into building stuff, a lot of building, and you don't show like the mistakes, things like that. So there is a lot of ways to tell a story, right? So right now I'm just trying to concentrate myself and trying to make another series. And I think I'm going to make The Simpsons coming soon. But I'm going to explain a little bit more of what I don't explain in short form. Because I think it's interesting. I think people will see, like I showed you before, the hammer. It's maybe 1-3 seconds, and it's great, I can do it better. A lot of comments like, you did this wrong. Yeah, you did this wrong, I will do this. I just spent like 3 weeks trying to receive the material, like 1, version 2, version 3. I'm just trying to have a good plan to put this on YouTube, and wish me luck.
Well, good luck. So you've made the Poké Ball, you've made Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles go-karts, you've made many projects along Pokemon, Simpsons, and all those kind of stuff. And those projects are all very ambitious, but in part because people are watching. Would you make the same projects if no one was watching?
Yeah. In February, I met Jay, that he has become a very good friend of mine in Genesi, beautiful person. And we were just speaking about content and about creating stuff and things like that. And we just find out that we love creating stuff. Like, if it doesn't resonate or doesn't get views, and most of the things sometimes that we create and we think that we are getting a lot of views, maybe don't work. That's the thing. Like, for sure, we're content creators. We're doing projects for views, and that's our driver, right? Like, we need to do it.
Especially if you have a company where that is now your job.
Exactly. But if I was millionaire, will I keep creating this thing? Of course. I will never stop. But I will not have the pressure of I need to create something because the algorithm will not work or whatever.
And so deadlines if you have sponsors.
Exactly. So if I create projects, and most of the projects that I make, that I spend a lot of time, doesn't perform on YouTube, and at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I learn a lot of stuff, and let's just take this as a mistake or a fail. And just trying to do better, right? Like,
and YouTube can be cruel because something that works today might not work tomorrow when you put out the piece of content, or maybe the way you do it, your passion down, and sometimes just a slight different title or thumbnail. It is a true. It can be very cruel.
There is a craft. I mean, it's a craft on creating, but there is a craft on filming, editing, distribution. Distribution, as Mr. Beast and all the content creators share, like the packaging, right? Yeah. Thumbnail, title, the hook. There is a lot of things to learn that thing, but the most important part I will say, and I will communicate this, is like, if the project resonates with you, just go for it. Like, trying to build things that just resonate with trending or people, but not with you, I think you can do it once or twice, but it's not a long run, right? It needs to connect with you and to say, I want to build this because this and that. So I think most of my projects, I think almost 99% of my projects are built with this in mind.
And within the community, not only the 3D printing, but the making community in general, what's one skill you think we don't talk about enough?
I think there are a lot of skills that maybe people think like, okay, you create this easy, right? But sometimes projects have like mechanical knowledge, CAD, they have electronics, ideas, scripting, schematics, almost project manager kind of stuff. Like I say to you, like the Poké Ball. Okay, I have 3 months to build. I need to finish this in 2 weeks. I have this budget. I need to spend this. I need to pay that. So there is a lot of complexity on the projects we made. So that's the thing. Like, bravo for those who are making cool projects, content creation, and if there is a hobby for you, is this a hobby for you? Just try to enjoy as much as possible. And if you want to go pro, but well, like I said, you need to have more skills, like like managing, accounting, etc., etc.
I was kind of expecting you to say something around project management or I think it is something underestimated where in general we all tend to just dive into a project, especially if we're passionate. If we're passionate, we just think about the project and we dive in. But if you dive in without having perspective, sometimes it's good because you're discovering. But some other times when you have deadlines and you know what you want to do, it is important also to take a step back and try to plan, because if you plan, you might anticipate problems along the way. And with the help of CAD, you can really make sure you don't go into those problems and get them all together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was trying building one new stuff per day. After the travel to US, I was in US in February. That's when I met Jay in Genesee, and we were still talking. And he was like, "Man, you need to create more, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm inspired. I just came back to France, very inspired, and just started creating." But for example, creating one new video per day, like you said, there's a plan. And I just remember going the first 2 weeks like nothing. Yeah. And it was like crazy because I was finishing my days at 10 o'clock. I was starting at 8 a.m. It was rough because I just came without any idea. You need to have the idea, you need to model, you need to this, you need to that. After that, I'm just trying to be better, but as you say, planning. The weekends, I just start to write everything and to say, okay, I will try this, I will try that. This is Monday, Tuesday, etc., etc. Trying to planify everything and also like trying to squeeze on one day the planning of the build. For example, if I'm building a lot of stuff with 3D printing, I need to finish my CAD by 12, because if I'm going to 3D print, and also if I'm modeling something that it needs to take like 1 or 2 hours, because then I need to assemble and things like that, right? But that's another thing that experience does, right? Like you just try to experience a lot of different things, but for sure, if you are doing like contracts and doing crazy stuff, you need to planify everything, timeline and budget-wise. Because
and again, that comes back to operating as a business and not just as a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's my decision? Like I say to my wife, like I will try it, but I will not impact our daily life, right? Like it's my choice. Also because we are a couple, just trying to negotiate, we will say, but not like trying to have an agreement of, okay, try it, I will support you, but you need to understand how life works, right? Like society, you have bills, you need to pay it, and that's my thing. Like if I need to generate money, I need to do this and that, etc., etc. And yeah, there is a lot to discuss about money. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, but it is what it is.
Money can make all the difference, that's for sure.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's imagine a future tomorrow where you stop building and posting stuff online and you start teaching someone to do the same as you do today, teach as a mentor, basically. What is one thing you would warn them of, hey, this might be a risk, or you want to be prepared for this?
First of all, what a sad moment if I just stop anything. I don't see myself stopping, like, to be honest. Like, this is my living. Like, every night and day I'm just thinking and watching YouTube tutorials for learn how to code, how to learn this and that, how to transistor make this, how the different mechanical components. You never stop learning, so that's the beauty of it. So for me, I really hope never stop doing this. And mentorship, yeah, as a matter of fact, in 1 month I will have an intern. So this girl contacted me on internet, and she was like, I'm interested in working with you. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
I love teaching, and this is not my first intern as a human being. I mean, when I was an engineer, I had a lot of interns, so I love like just trying to learn what I learned, and to also to teach what I learned, and also to learn from younger generations. That's amazing. But I don't think I will say anything about don't try this. I will encourage, like, try it, and then you will see. Or maybe I will say, like, be careful. Or if it implies money or something, like, no, we cannot afford that. Something like that. But I think that was one of the things that bothered me the most when I was young. People who were older than me and saying, don't do that, it doesn't work. We have already tried and it doesn't work. And most of my knowledge is like, or what I was thinking back then is like, it didn't work, but why?
Yeah.
Why it didn't work? And I think this is the most important thing.
Something very important with mentality, because oftentimes you learn way more from stuff you fail at. If you fail, but you know why, if you look back and you try to, and you don't just live it as a fail, but you live it as an opportunity to learn, and you try to understand, well, next time, hopefully you won't fail that way.
Exactly. So a lot of the things, this is on industry, you learn, because when you see the documentation, you saw why that failed, but also you see an opportunity, as you say, like, oh, okay, because it was way too complex, it didn't had this equipment, it was not so fast enough, or maybe it was back in the days they used like stepper motors. We can use now servo motors, whatever, you know. Back in the days they didn't have 3D printers, so it was all machining stuff. So it was very expensive. So now we can do that. So it's not because it didn't work at the time that it will not work. So you just need to find a better solution, right?
You just mentioned your future intern, so, well, maybe when this goes live, she'll be watching. So shout out to you, and enjoy maybe crazy stuff with Carlos. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. And you were just talking about failing. And is there ever a project you did and you feel like you failed and you never posted it because you're not happy with the result?
Yeah, there are like some videos that pop, and I was very happy, and then it didn't perform. Then again, performance, right? And I was like, okay, let's take it out. Or some interviews that I made that was good, but on video didn't translate that well. There are a lot of videos that either I don't, how to say, I just erase them, just privatize them, or some videos that never comes to light. But when there is a project that is big enough, like Poké Ball, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or whatever, when you say like, okay, I just spend a lot of time and effort, and you need to make it work, right? And that's one of the things that not differentiate me, but one of my forces, like it has to work. Like for me, it's like, when I just started doing the Poké Ball, sometimes people say like, no, you will not succeed, it will be painful, you will not finish in time, whatever. And I was like, I don't care. This is the deadline, we need to finish, and we need to find a solution. So at the end of the day, if I'm working on something, I will finish it, and then I will see if there's a video coming out, but you need to finish. Also, no pressure, but yeah, it's okay also to say, I cannot.
Yeah, and sometimes it happens. It's important also, you're right, to say, allow yourself to fail.
Yeah, exactly. It's not good for sanity.
And during this whole interview, you were talking a lot about community and how people like James Bruton, like Jay from Ingeniezy, Frankly Built inspired you and helped you feel less lonely. What creators do you think at the moment we should look at, and what people do you want to give a shout out to that maybe are small creators for the moment but you think are inspiring in their own way? Do you have any names that come up to mind?
I don't have enough. Like I mean, I would love to know more people that are creating stuff, but I don't know. I mean, people that just watch on YouTube is like, for example, of course, Jay from Ingenuity, Matt Denton, James Bruton, 3D printing nerd. I mean, everyone will say like, we know everyone,
this is a
right?
community. Well,
Yeah.
we've had a talk, an interview with Matt Denton and with the 3D printing nerd, of course.
Exactly.
It
So
is a small community.
yeah, so, and I mean, I have like 20, 30 people that I know that they are very good persons. Hacksmith, I had the pleasure to know Bogdan from Hacksmith. He's a very intelligent guy and very, very, very nice. Now I had the opportunity to meet with Tyler Seteri, sorry if I don't see it. He's a crazy guy. He knows how to do things go viral. So I need to learn a lot from him. I don't know, like a lot of people. I just, for example, in Spanish, I'm very inspired by Franquito M.
Okay.
Franquito M. He's living in Argentina. He's an Uruguayan guy, and he just made a series in 2025 to 6.
Okay.
And he said, I will do one long form per day.
Wow.
But he's a creator.
So Casey Neistat style almost.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the thing is that he was building stuff, and that's crazy because I know how difficult it can be, like building stuff, and he made it seem so much easy. So he have, of course, millions and millions of subscribers, but
this is very
he seems to be like very inspiring. He used to be a very good guy, so I hope one day to know him. I don't know him directly, but yeah, I mean, creators, there are a bunch of them, like.
And I'm sure people will mention a ton of them. There's so many other creators.
Exactly.
And we all have to meet and really make this community work.
Yeah, and also there is like long form, short form. You know, from now and then I just scroll Instagram. We have She Builds Robots.
Yeah.
I love her stuff as well. Kids invent stuff as well.
Yes.
Ruth. Of course, Colin Furs.
Yeah.
Emily the engineer, I love Emily. Forget Michael Reeves.
And what you were saying earlier from your story of building what your wife called non-essential machines.
Exactly.
This makes me think a lot of Simone Yetch, who is known as Shitty Robots Queen. She was building all kinds of, it was completely unnecessary, like a helmet with a toothbrush that would just brush your teeth and stupid stuff like that. But
exactly.
It's very inspiring the way that
unnecessary inventions.
Unnecessary inventions.
For example, he's a very inspiration, big inspiration for me. Yeah.
Carlos didn't set out to build a following. He set out to prove something to himself. That he could make the thing in his head real, even when he had nothing but a printer and some time. And somewhere in all those Iron Man suits and Poké Balls, he ended up building something bigger, a place for himself in a country that wasn't his, in a language that wasn't his. That's the part you don't see in the final build. The version 2s, the projects nobody watched, this has to work at 2 AM. So, go check out his channels. Whatever language you speak, there's probably one for you. And if you make things, take the hint from Carlos. Don't ask if it will work, just start and figure out why it doesn't. I'm Elliot, this was Between Layers. I'll see you in the next one. Bye then, happy printing.